I want you to imagine a completely silent crime, a massive heist happening literally right under your nose, completely invisible to the naked eye. Yet it's affecting almost every single person on the planet. And no, this isn't some crazy Hollywood movie plot. This is a very real, very urgent financial reality. We're looking at a phenomenon that is constantly draining your resources, and you never even get a fraud alert from your bank. Today, we are shining a massive spotlight on the invisible money thief that is secretly pocketing your hard-earned cash, day in and day out. Think about this for just a second. What if you woke up tomorrow morning, checked your banking app, and realized that someone had bypassed all your security and stolen exactly 10% of your cash overnight? You'd be absolutely furious, right? You'd be calling the bank, calling the cops, demanding answers. But what if I told you that this exact level of theft is actually happening right now? It's happening quietly every single year, and honestly, most people don't even notice it.
Section 1. The coffee test. Okay, let's dive into this. Let's imagine that back in 2015, your absolute favorite cup of coffee on your way to work cost you exactly $2. Nice and easy, right? But today, that exact same cup of coffee, poured by the exact same barista, might run you $4. Now, you really got to ask yourself, did that coffee suddenly become twice as delicious? Are they brewing beans imported from Mars? No way. The coffee is exactly the same. The difference here isn't the coffee at all, it's the money. Prices went up simply because your dollars now buy less than they used to.
And that brings us to the formal definition of our invisible thief: inflation. Think of your money kind of like an ice cube. If you just leave an ice cube sitting out on the kitchen counter, it doesn't stay a perfectly solid block of ice, does it? It slowly, steadily melts away. Inflation is literally the invisible heat in the room that is melting your wealth. It's not a tax you pay at the register, and it's certainly not a hidden fee from your bank. It is the steady, relentless erosion of your money's purchasing power over time.
Section 2. Why does inflation happen? Let's quickly pull back the curtain on the mechanics here. Let's move to and see how this builds, because there are 3 primary triggers. Step 1 is higher demand. When people generally have more money in their pockets to spend, well, businesses notice and they raise prices because the demand for their products goes up. Step 2 is higher costs. If it suddenly costs a company more for fuel to ship their goods, or for raw materials, or even just to pay their workers, they don't just eat that loss. Nope, they pass it right on to you by charging more. And finally, step 3, an increased money supply. When governments and central banks pump more money into the economy, you suddenly have a whole lot more dollars chasing the exact same amount of stuff. More money, same amount of goods, basically equals higher prices.
Moving to Section 3, the silent purchasing power killer. This is where macroeconomic theory hits your everyday life.
Now, it's pretty shocking when you actually map out this reality. Imagine rolling a grocery cart down the aisle with a $100 bill in your pocket. Just 5 years ago, that $100 might have given you a completely full cart. But today, it might only fill up 75% of that same cart. That empty 25% is what's now completely lost to inflation. Your $100 bill still physically says $100 on the paper. Your bank screen still says $100. But a quarter of your actual buying power has just vanished into thin air. You didn't spend it, it just lost its value.
And this brilliantly illustrates what we call the salary treadmill. Let's say you worked incredibly hard this year, crushed all your goals, and your boss gave you a 3% raise. You feel great, right? But if the invisible heat of inflation is running at 5%, simple math dictates you are actually poorer than you were last year. You're sitting at a negative 2% deficit in actual purchasing power. You're running, you're sweating, you got the raise, you got more dollars in your paycheck, but you're actually moving backward because the prices of everything around you sprinted ahead even faster. Now let's apply this treadmill concept to your savings, which a lot of folks mistakenly think is entirely safe. So in year 1, you have $10,000 sitting in a traditional bank account. But if inflation is hovering at 5%, by year 2, the actual purchasing power of that money drops to roughly $9,500. Move to year 3, and it shrinks even more. And here is the kicker. You didn't touch it. You didn't make a bad stock market trade. You just let it sit there. By doing absolutely nothing, the invisible thief destroys a huge chunk of your wealth year after year. This invisible force is the exact underlying reason for a massive generational shift. I mean, you've probably heard your parents or grandparents say something like, "I bought my house for $100,000 and now it's worth $500,000. And sure, home improvements and local real estate markets play a role, but a massive part of that increase is simply inflation. It's exactly why healthcare, college tuition, and cars cost what they do today compared to decades ago. Inflation fundamentally changes the numeric value of everything over long periods of time.
Section 4. The wealth gap reality. Let's look at how this impacts different groups of people.
The brutal truth about economic math is that it absolutely does not impact everyone equally. For poor and middle-class families, the vast majority of income goes to absolute necessities. We're talking food, rent, gas, electricity. When those prices rise, they feel the pain immediately at the pump and the checkout line. Conversely, wealthier individuals often place a large chunk of their income into assets, like the stock market, businesses, and real estate. And when inflation hits, the value of those assets actually rises alongside it. The wealthy own the things that are getting more expensive. So while inflation crushes the purchasing power of the middle class, it can actually elevate the net worth of those holding assets, silently but powerfully widening the wealth gap.
Section 5. The biggest money myth. This is a trap you really need to avoid.
There is a deeply ingrained, dangerous trap that sounds perfectly logical to most of us. If I save enough cash, I'll be rich. Listen, this is the biggest money myth out there. Think about the mattress millionaire. Imagine someone 50 years ago took $1 million in cold hard cash and hid it under their mattress, probably giving themselves a terrible backache in the process. Today, they pull it out, and yes, they are technically still a millionaire. The number hasn't changed. But 50 years ago, that $1 million could buy a fleet of luxury homes. Today, depending on where you live, it might barely buy one decent house. The numeric amount remained identical, but the purchasing power was utterly gutted by the invisible thief.
Section 6. How to protect yourself. It's time to go on the offensive.
It is absolutely time to fight back and defend your wallet. So the crucial point is implementing these actionable defenses. First, you must focus on increasing your skills and your income faster than the rate of inflation. If inflation is running at 4%, your goal has to be growing your earning power by 6, 7, or 8%. Second, stop hoarding cash under the mattress. You need to buy into assets that historically outperform inflation, things like stocks or real estate that actually grow in value over time. Third, absolutely keep an emergency cash fund for safety. You definitely need that. But beyond that safety net, put your money to work so it doesn't just melt away. And fourth, adapt. You have to accept that inflation is just a normal part of every modern economy. You can't stop the heat, but you can definitely buy a freezer.
I want to leave you with a powerful question. Will you let inflation steal your wealth $1 at a time? The next time you see the price of groceries tick up or your rent increase, remember that the biggest threat to your financial security isn't losing all your money overnight in some dramatic market crash. It's losing it slowly, silently, day by day. You now have the knowledge to adapt and protect yourself. If you found this explainer helpful in uncovering the invisible money thief, make sure to like and share it with someone who still thinks hoarding cash is a solid retirement plan. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay focused, and I'll see you in the next one.